You were told the greatest war stories always stayed in the spotlight. That is not true. Some of the most powerful British war films of the 1960s were pushed aside because they refused simple heroes and easy victories. These films show exhaustion instead of glory, doubt instead of certainty. And once you see what they reveal, you will understand why they were quietly buried and why they still matter today. Number 10. Battle of Britain, 1969. The sound comes first. Engines tearing through silence like a warning that cannot be ignored. Then the faces appear. Tired, focused, already carrying the weight of what is coming. Michael Caine stands among pilots who know this is not a mission. This is a line that cannot break. The film does not rush into spectacle. It builds dread slowly. You feel the waiting, you feel the uncertainty, and when the sky finally explodes into combat, it feels earned. It feels terrifying. What sets this film apart is its refusal to dramatize beyond truth. Real aircraft dominate every frame. The aerial combat is not stylized. It is methodical, brutal, repetitive in a way that reveals the mental toll. Pilots scramble, engage, return, then go again, with fewer numbers each time. There is no comforting arc here. Command decisions are flawed. Communication fails. Men collapse under pressure without speeches or heroic music to protect them. That honesty gives the film its power. It also explains why it faded from the spotlight. Hollywood prefers victory that inspires. This film shows victory that exhausts. It does not celebrate war. It endures it. And in doing so, it becomes one of the most authentic portrayals of aerial warfare ever captured on screen. Number 9. Where Eagles Dare, 1968. It begins with a mission that feels impossible. Snow-covered mountains, a fortress hidden above the world, and a team that does not fully trust itself. Richard Burton moves through this landscape with calm precision. Clint Eastwood watches closely. Not everything is what it seems. Not everyone is who they claim to be. From the very first moment, the film builds tension through doubt. The brilliance of this film lies in its structure. It is not driven by action alone. It is driven by deception, layered so carefully that every conversation feels like a trap. Information becomes more dangerous than bullets. Alliances shift without warning. The audience is forced to question every reveal. And when violence finally erupts, it does not feel chaotic. It feels like the inevitable result of a carefully constructed plan. This is war as intelligence, war as strategy, war as psychological warfare. Yet despite this depth, the film is often remembered only for its action sequences. Hollywood reduced it to spectacle and ignored the complexity that makes it exceptional. Beneath the gunfire sits one of the smartest war narratives of its time, a film that trusts its audience to think. And that trust is exactly what made it easy to overlook. Number 8. The Dirty Dozen, 1967. They are not soldiers you salute. They are men you lock away. Killers, thieves, broken minds shaped by violence long before the war found them. Then one officer walks in and offers something dangerous. Not freedom, not forgiveness. Just a mission that might erase their sentence or end their lives. Lee Marvin carries this idea with cold authority. He does not inspire them. He controls them. Barely. The film builds tension through instability. Every man feels like a loaded weapon. Training is not discipline. It is containment. You watch them learn to work together yet never trust each other. That friction becomes the core of the story. When the mission begins, the chaos does not feel cinematic. It feels inevitable. The violence is sudden, personal, unforgiving, and beneath it sits a darker truth. Victory here depends on men who should never be trusted with power. That idea cuts deep into the mythology of war. It challenges the belief that heroes win battles. Sometimes it is the condemned who do the work no one else can do. Hollywood embraced the surface rebellion of this film, the tough dialogue, the explosive finale, but it quietly ignored the moral discomfort beneath it. Over time, it was packaged as entertainment rather than critique. Yet the film still stands as a turning point. It reshaped how war stories could be told. Not through honor, not through purity, but through survival driven by flawed human nature. Number 7. The Blue Max, 1966. The sky looks peaceful from a distance. Up close, it becomes a battlefield where ambition replaces fear. Inside a fragile aircraft sits a man chasing recognition that always feels just out of reach. George Peppard plays a pilot driven not by duty but by hunger. Each victory pushes him higher. Each success isolates him further. This is not a story about war alone. It is a story about obsession. The film unfolds with quiet intensity. Dialogue carries weight. Silence carries even more. Class tension runs beneath every interaction. The protagonist is not accepted, not respected. He is tolerated as long as he delivers results. That pressure builds into something dangerous. The aerial combat is precise and almost clinical. There is beauty in the movement, yet no joy in the outcome. Every triumph feels hollow. Every failure feels final. What makes this film stand apart is its perspective. It does not offer a comforting hero. It does not present a clear moral center. It explores the cost of ambition in a system that rewards destruction. Hollywood struggled with that ambiguity. A British production focused on a German pilot created distance for mainstream audiences. Without a simple narrative to hold on to, the film slipped into the background. Yet its themes remain sharp. It asks a question few war films dare to ask. What happens when the need to be recognized becomes more powerful than the need to survive? Number 6. The Heroes of Telemark, 1965. The mission begins in silence. Snow covers everything. Mountains stand like barriers that do not care who lives or dies. A small group moves forward, knowing that failure will not just cost lives. It will change the future. Kirk Douglas leads with urgency, while Richard Harris carries a quieter intensity. Their goal is simple on the surface: destroy what the enemy is building. But the reality is far more complex. This film thrives on tension built through environment. Nature becomes the first enemy. Cold bites harder than bullets. Distance stretches every decision into a risk. The resistance fighters are not larger than life. They are human. They hesitate. They doubt. They push forward anyway. That grounded portrayal gives the story weight. When the sabotage unfolds, it does not feel like spectacle. It feels like a fragile success that could collapse at any second. Hollywood often remembers war films for their scale. Massive battles, endless explosions. This film chooses precision instead. It focuses on one operation that could shift the balance of power. That restraint makes it powerful. It also makes it easy to overlook. There are no grand speeches, no exaggerated heroics, only quiet determination against overwhelming odds. Beneath its modest presentation lies a story about courage that does not need recognition, and that is exactly why it slipped past the spotlight. Number 5. The Hill, 1965. There is no battlefield here, no open sky, no enemy across the horizon. The war exists inside a prison camp, where discipline becomes punishment and authority becomes cruelty. Sean Connery strips away every trace of his heroic image to reveal something raw, something vulnerable. The soldiers here are not fighting for victory. They are fighting to endure. The film builds pressure through repetition. A mound of sand becomes a symbol of control. Men are forced to climb it again and again until their bodies fail. Orders are shouted without reason. Punishment continues without purpose. What begins as discipline slowly transforms into psychological torture. The camera refuses to look away. It traps you in the same cycle as the characters. Heat, exhaustion, breakdown, repeat. This is one of the boldest war films of its time because it challenges the idea of military righteousness. It suggests that the system meant to create strength can also destroy it. That message made it uncomfortable. Hollywood prefers stories where authority guides and protects. This film exposes authority when it abuses power. There are no easy answers here, no clear victory, only survival within a structure that has lost its humanity. That honesty gives the film lasting impact. It is not about winning a war. It is about what war does to people when no one is watching. And that perspective remains one of the most unsettling truths ever captured in British war cinema. Number 4. Zulu, 1964. Dawn breaks over a quiet outpost. A handful of soldiers stand against a horizon that begins to move. Not a trick of the light, not imagination. An army, vast, relentless, closing in. Stanley Baker commands with urgency, while Michael Caine reveals a young officer learning leadership under fire. The odds are not just against them. The odds are overwhelming. The film builds its power through rhythm, preparation, silence. Then the first wave hits. Rifles fire. In controlled bursts, lines hold, then bend. The enemy returns again, and again. Each assault chips away at certainty. There is no grand strategy here, only endurance, only the will to hold ground that may not matter beyond this moment. The camera captures scale without losing human focus. Fear shows in small gestures, in glances, in the tightening grip on a rifle. What makes this film complex is its perspective. It presents courage on both sides, discipline against determination. That balance creates tension that goes beyond simple victory. Modern audiences often struggle with its colonial setting. Hollywood chooses to keep distance rather than engage with that discomfort. Yet, the film remains a study of pressure, of leadership formed in crisis, of survival when retreat is no longer an option. It does not ask you to celebrate. It asks you to witness. And that demand gives it lasting weight. Number 3. The Great Escape, 1963. Barbed wire stretches across the frame like a promise that no one leaves. Inside, the camp routine becomes a weapon. Time becomes the enemy. Steve McQueen may draw attention, but the heart of the story lies in the collective, a group of prisoners refusing to accept confinement as fate. The film moves with quiet determination. Plans form in whispers. Tunnels grow inch by inch beneath watchful eyes. Every small success feels like a victory. Every mistake threatens everything. Suspense builds not through action, but through patience. You watch men risk everything for a chance that may not even exist. That commitment creates emotional weight that stays long after the escape begins. When the breakout finally happens, the tone shifts. Hope rises, then fractures. The world outside is not freedom. It is another battlefield filled with danger. The film refuses to deliver a simple triumph. Consequences arrive quickly and without mercy. That balance between hope and loss defines its impact. Hollywood often highlights the spectacle, the motorcycle chase, the daring moments. But beneath that lies a deeper story about resilience, about unity in the face of control. It is a British war story shaped by endurance rather than dominance, and that quieter strength is often overlooked. Yet, it is exactly what gives the film its enduring power. Number 2. The Longest Day, 1962. The morning does not begin with victory. It begins with doubt. Waves move toward a shoreline that refuses to welcome them. Soldiers step into water, knowing many will not reach sand. The film does not follow one hero. It follows many perspectives that collide into a single moment of history. John Wayne appears, but he does not dominate. The scale is too large for any one figure to carry. What makes this film powerful is its structure. It moves across command rooms, beaches, airfields. Each location adds another layer to the operation. You see decisions being made far from the battlefield. You see the cost of those decisions in real time. The tone feels almost documentary in its restraint. Dialogue is sharp. Movement is deliberate. When chaos erupts, it feels overwhelming because it is grounded in detail. Nothing is simplified. Nothing is exaggerated for comfort. The film respects the complexity of D-Day. It does not reduce it to a single narrative. That choice gives it authenticity. It also makes it harder to package into a traditional Hollywood story. There is no clear emotional guide, only fragments that build a larger truth. Over time, newer films with stronger central characters overshadowed it. But this remains one of the most accurate portrayals of coordinated warfare ever made. It shows that victory is not a single act. It is the result of countless moments where everything could have failed. Number 1. Lawrence of Arabia, 1962. A figure appears against an endless desert. Heat distorts the horizon. Silence stretches longer than comfort allows. Peter O'Toole transforms into a man who does not fully belong to any world he enters. War here is not confined to battle. It exists in identity, in belief, in the fragile line between myth and reality. The The film unfolds with patience that demands attention. Each scene builds character rather than rushing toward conflict. When violence arrives, it feels sudden, almost intrusive. The desert becomes a stage where strategy meets psychology. Victories feel grand, yet uncertain. Triumph is followed by reflection that questions its meaning. The protagonist evolves not into a hero, but into something harder to define. That ambiguity gives the film its depth. Hollywood often celebrates spectacle within this film, the scale, the visuals, the iconic moments. Yet beneath that surface lies a complex study of power and perception. It challenges the idea of control. It questions the cost of becoming a legend. That layered storytelling does not fit neatly into traditional war film categories. As a result, its war narrative is often overshadowed by its epic reputation. But this is war at its most introspective, not just fought with weapons, but with identity and belief. It does not offer easy answers. It leaves you with questions that linger long after the final frame, and that is why it stands at the top. These films were not forgotten by accident. They were pushed aside because they challenge comfort and question power. If you made it this far, then you have seen what Hollywood chose to ignore. Now tell me which one hit hardest and which hidden war story should be uncovered next.